Failure is the best teacher if you're willing to learn. It's not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your success. This is a story of a boy named Ethan who was known for his quick thinking and intelligence. His teachers often praised him, and his parents were certain he had a bright future ahead. Everyone believed he would achieve great things. But Ethan had one major flaw. He never took failure seriously. Whenever he made a mistake, he either blamed the situation or made excuses. "It's not a big deal," he would say. "I'll do better next time." Yet he never changed his approach. He spent hours scrolling through his phone, chatting with friends, and playing games instead of focusing on what truly mattered. His parents often warned him, "Ethan, if you don't learn from your mistakes, bigger failures will come your way." But he didn't listen. "I have plenty of time," he thought. "I'll figure things out later." One day, the results of the school exams were announced. Ethan, who was once a top student, scored far lower than expected. The teachers who had once praised him were now disappointed. His classmates, who admired his intelligence, stopped seeking his advice. When Ethan returned home, his parents looked at his report card in silence. The disappointment in their eyes hurt more than any words could. That night, he sat alone, feeling lost. "How did this happen?" he wondered. "I always thought I was smart, but now I feel like a failure." Not knowing where else to turn, Ethan visited his grandfather, an old but wise man who had seen many seasons of life. Sitting beside him on the porch, Ethan finally admitted, "Grandpa, I don't understand why I failed. I always thought I was doing fine." His grandfather listened carefully and then chuckled. "Failure isn't the problem, my boy. The problem is that you never learn from it. Let me tell you a story." Many years ago, his grandfather began, there was a skilled blacksmith named Harold. He was famous in the village for making strong swords and tools. People admired his craftsmanship, and he made a good living from his trade. But Harold had a bad habit. Whenever one of his tools broke, he blamed the metal, the weather, or anything but himself. Instead of improving his technique, he kept working the same way, believing he already knew everything. One day, a nobleman came to order a fine sword. Harold, as always, used his usual method without testing new techniques, but when the nobleman's knight swung the sword, it snapped in half. Furious, the nobleman refused to pay and warned others about Harold's poor craftsmanship. Harold lost business, yet he still refused to change. "I've been doing this for years," he grumbled. "It's just bad luck." As time passed, fewer people came to his workshop. His tools rusted and his forge grew cold. He sat outside staring at his empty shop, wondering where it all went wrong. Then an old traveler passed by and noticed his sorrow. "Why are you sitting here instead of working?" the traveler asked. "No one trusts my work anymore," Harold admitted. The traveler picked up a fallen branch and snapped it in two. A weak tree branch breaks in the wind, but a strong one bends and grows. The same goes for failure. It's not here to stop you, it's here to teach you. If you refuse to learn, you will keep failing. But if you change, you will rise again, stronger than before. Harold finally understood. He started analyzing his mistakes, experimenting with new forging techniques, and learning from his failures. Over time, his work improved. People returned, and his name was respected once again, not because he was flawless, but because he had learned from his past. Ethan sat in deep thought. For the first time, he realized that failure wasn't an enemy, it was a lesson. "Grandpa," he said slowly, "does that mean I can still turn things around?" His grandfather smiled. "Of course, but you must stop making excuses and start learning. If you do that, nothing can stop you from succeeding." That night, Ethan made a promise to himself. He would stop running from failure and start learning from it. The next day, he created a study plan. He reviewed his past mistakes and saw where he had gone wrong. He never revised his lessons. He spent too much time on distractions, and he didn't ask for help when needed. Determined to change, he adjusted his habits. He set aside time for focused study, asked his teachers for guidance, and cut down on unnecessary screen time. Whenever he made a mistake, he didn't ignore it. He learned from it. Gradually, his hard work paid off. In the next exams, his performance improved. His teachers noticed his efforts, his parents were proud, and his friends respected his determination. Years later, Ethan became a successful entrepreneur. Whenever people asked him about the key to his success, he would smile and say, Failure is the best teacher if you're willing to learn. It's not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your success. If you see failure as a lesson rather than a defeat, you will always find a way to improve. So the next time you fail, don't be discouraged. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? If you keep learning, success will surely follow.